How is it going, everybody? You're watching Then About Tech, and today I bring you my 2025 updated video on the best iPhone camera settings. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can get the best photos and videos for your iPhone. And the best thing is this video is universal, so it'll work with any and all iPhone models, including of course the newest at the moment, the iPhone 16 Pro Max. So without further ado, let's begin. Okay, so grab your iPhone, tap on settings, and then scroll just a bit down until you see camera, and right here is the famous iPhone camera settings page. And this is actually huge, guys, because every single one of those little arrows actually lead to different pages, so more and more pages in settings. And we're gonna take a look here and explain the most important ones. And of course, later on this video, we're gonna open up the camera app itself and show you what you can actually change right here too. Okay, so let's go ahead here and open up our settings once again. And if you have an iPhone 16 series, so an iPhone with a camera control, you have this dedicated option which is called camera control, of course. And here we have two interesting options. First one, clean preview. So when you have this enable, and then when you press on the camera control, when you are inside the camera app, inside the viewfinder, everything becomes clear, just to make it very easy for you to see your object. We have here lock and focus exposure. This is actually new, and is the fact that you can tap and hold and it'll focus on that object. This is so nice as well, mimicking a proper camera. When you press on the shutter button and it actually locks on that object. I really love that feature. Right here we have the possibility to launch the camera with a single click, what actually opens, so the camera app, and some accessibility options as well. So what will a light press or a swipe do, how much force you have to put in order to actually activate the button, and the speed as well. Okay, so coming back, let's talk about photographic styles. And this is a very big and important part of the video, and I'm gonna leave it to the end because I'm gonna show you this inside the camera app. Okay, so I'm not even gonna get started. Let's cancel. We're gonna talk about that later. Moving on, we have record video, and this is where it gets interesting, of course, because we have a bunch of possibilities, a bunch of resolutions and frame per second options. And my recommendation is simply 4K 30 frames per second. And please keep in mind that depending on your iPhone model, you will see different options. You may not see 4K 120, you may not even see 4K depending on your iPhone. But if you get 4K 30 frames per second, that's what I recommend, or anything above that if that's your maximum possibility. And the reason I recommend 4K 30 is simply because it's closer to reality. It's closer to the human eye, so I think it's a very natural way to record a video. On top of that, this is really compatible with social media as well, like Instagram, YouTube, and so on. And also, you won't be wasting your storage with 4K 60 or 4K 120, because when you're normally recording on those formats, you won't see the difference, but the file size is actually way larger. So then 4K 30 frames per second is the sweet spot. I love it like that. But of course, if you want to record a video in normal speed and then use it for slow-mo, then of course I would recommend 60 frames per second or 120 frames per second. But again, only if you want to use it in slow-mo. For normal video, 4K 30 frames per second, that's the sweet spot. All right, now let's move on. Show PAL formats, you don't need to play with that. Enhanced stabilization, I do recommend, so it doesn't get shaky. Action mode lower light, this is very important as well. So when you are in action mode, that it uses stabilization right on your video, a ton of stabilization. If you are in a low light scenario, it'll actually reduce the stabilization so the video doesn't get too choppy. So yes, enable it. HDR video, I do like it. Some people don't like it. It's that contrasty like color, so you get really bright whites and really deep dark blacks. So I like that, so I leave it on, but it's up to you. This looks great in social media as well. Here we have auto FPS, so it will adjust the FPS again depending on your low light scenario. I would recommend leaving it on. And then we have lock camera, so disable that because it'll just lock your camera when you're making a video to a single lens, a single camera on your iPhone. This is really bad, so disable it. And lock white balance, disable it as well. Leave white balance fluctuate. Okay, now let's come back and let's talk about slow-mo, if you will. Of course, if you're recording in slow-mo and if your iPhone is capable with 4K 120, that's what I would recommend. Of course, it's gonna use a little bit more of your storage, but that's what I would recommend. Okay, let's come back here. Let's go for cinematic. Again, 4K 30 frames per second, the same setting we're using before. Let's go ahead here and take a look at record sound, and I would recommend stereo. I don't like spatial audio simply because sometimes it over processes the audio a little bit, so stereo is the perfect for me. Allow audio playback is a good option because if, let's say, you're listening to music on Apple Music, Spotify, or something like that, and you start recording a video on your iPhone, it actually pick up the sound from what you're listening to. So this is really, really nice. With noise reduction, of course, leave it on because this works really, really well. Now, moving on, let's talk about formats, and this is one of the most important settings. Let's pay attention to this. Right here we have high efficiency and most compatible, and this is where people get really, really confused. And the thing is, high efficiency will give you a small file size, as you can see right here, to reduce file size, capture photos and videos in high efficiency. So it'll reduce a little bit, but the reason why I do recommend that you use this is because if you want to record in 4K, 30 frames per second, in higher resolutions, in higher frame rates, you will need to use high efficiency. If you use most compatible, it just won't work or it'll change automatically. Okay, so high efficiency, even though it'll reduce your file size, you need to use it to record it with the best quality resolution and frames per second possible. Photo mode, 24 megapixels, of course, the best option. We will allow 48, just so stick around, but right here, 24, okay? ProRAW and resolution control, yes, enable ProRAW. And then let's go ahead and see the Pro default. And I do recommend that you use the max possibility, the max setting possible, which is in my case, ProRAW max up to 48 megapixels. So this we're getting the best photo on our iPhone. And this setting is extremely important because when you take a photo using ProRAW Max, there's no processing at all. You're actually taking a raw photo. Let me explain. So you know when you're taking a photo on your iPhone, like for example a selfie, and then you open the photo and it looks different. It looks like the photo has changed. It looks like the shadows are weird. It looks super contrasty. And that's post-processing. Your iPhone does it to every single photo that you take, but if you use ProRAW, it doesn't happen. You don't have this kind of processing simply because it's a raw photo. So it's just one photo with the maximum quality possible, with the top quality. It's the original quality with no post-processing, with anything like that. So it's like a photo from a professional camera. That's why it's called ProRAW. So I love this setting just for that, but of course we're gonna go through it and I'm gonna explain you better when I actually open the camera app. I'm gonna show you in action. And when we're talking about the format, it's JPEG XL lossy. Simply because JPEG XL will actually compress the photos way better, so you will lose way less quality and details and information. But if you choose lossless, so the middle option, the files are going to be too large. So lossy is a good compromise. Okay, so that's how I use it. Let's come back here and let's keep scrolling. Now let's talk about video. And I do recommend that you enable ProRes with the encoding log. And relax, we're not going to use it all the time because this is just going to ruin your storage. Like videos are going to be like huge, but you're going to understand in a second why this is the best option. So leave it enabled if you can, because later on you can choose whether you want to use it or not for some special photography or something like that. Okay, now let's come back once again, and now let's talk about preserve settings. And this is huge, guys. It's a huge list, but what this whole page is all about is simply the fact that you can preserve, so you can maintain any of those specific settings when you actually leave the application and come back. So for example, camera mode, if you leave this on, what this means is if you are recording a video with your iPhone camera and you leave the app and do something else, when you come back, you're gonna come back to the video mode. It's not going to be on photo mode, it's going to be on video mode. So it's going to preserve that setting. And this will happen with everything. So your controls, your photographic styles, creative controls, depth control, and everything like that. So it's more of a personal preference. I generally don't like this because I don't take the same photos in the same scenarios in the same ways every single time. So I like that my iPhone come back to the original settings. But again, this is up to you. I would recommend that you go ahead and take a look at every single one of those options. Again, this is just to preserve the setting of the previous time you were using your iPhone camera. Let's come back here and now let's talk about those three options. So use volume up for burst. I like this, press and hold, and it takes a bunch of photos in a row. Scan QR codes, of course. Show detected text, of course, as well. I like that. When I'm taking a photo, I see a text, I can already copy it and so on. I like this feature. Shared library, if you have it enabled, if you have a shared library with somebody else, you can actually share from the camera. It's a dedicated button, which I'm going to show you in a second. Okay, and here we have composition, so grid, which are those 4 lines like tic-tac-toe, you know. Some people like it. I think I don't like it. I prefer to use my own eyes and my own view and my own perspective to take photos, but some people like to align objects and frames with the grid. I don't like it. Level, again, you can use a level to just make sure things are leveled with your camera. Again, I don't like it. I prefer the clean view. Mirror front camera, I do like this because when you're taking a photo with your front camera, a selfie, your iPhone will automatically flip it to make it look natural. But in the way I think, it doesn't look natural at all. It looks weird. So I like to mirror my front camera. So then when I take a photo, the photo I get after I take it is exactly the same photo I was seeing on the viewfinder. So I like this. And then view outside the frame. And this is just that kind of mirroring effect you get at the top and at the bottom where you can see how the photo would look like with other camera lenses. I generally like it. Some people don't. Again, this is a personal thing. Okay. Fusion camera. So this is the main camera of the newer iPhone models. So as you can see here, the main camera actually have 3 focal lengths. So 24, 28, and 35. You can choose the default one. So every time you open up the camera, which of those focal lengths will be the standard. And of course, you can choose to enable or disable the other ones if it's your choice. I generally like to leave everything on and 24 millimeters as the standard. Okay, so let's come back here once again. We are almost at the end. As you can see here, portraits in photo mode. So every time you take a photo, a normal photo, it'll actually capture the details of the photo in order that if later on you want to make that a portrait, you can. So this will actually use a little bit more of your storage, but I love that option because I can always create portrait photos of normal non-portrait photos. I like that. Prioritize faster shooting. So if you want to get photos as fast as you can, even though you may lose quality here and there, you may have this feature enabled so you can take way more photos and then it'll just take them, sometimes not giving you the best quality. So it's more up to you, but if you want to get more quality, you can disable that. Lens correction, you want to have this on just to avoid distortion, and macro control as well. So if you have a Pro phone with macro capabilities, you actually see a button, a little flower, so you can go ahead and choose if you want or not macro photography. And that's pretty much it for our iPhone camera settings. We have set up everything the best way possible, but of course we have to talk about the camera app. Let me show you. So opening up the camera app, we have a few shortcuts and buttons that are very, very important. Right here on the right, you're seeing ProRAW Max. Remember that we set up ProRAW Max? That's right. By default, it'll be turned off. So you can tap on it to enable it. But as you can see, as you enable it, you lose live photos and you also lose the photographic styles. And that's because when you're taking a photo with ProRAW Max, it's actually going to take the correct photo without filters, without colors, without making little videos for live photos or anything like that. It's just one perfect photo with the best quality possible. So you can choose here very easily if you want to take your ProRAW photo, just one, or if you disable it, you will get your live photo where you can press and have that little video, which I love, by the way, and also the photographic styles, which I mentioned in the beginning of the video, and I'm gonna explain you right now. If you tap on this button, you can see here that you can choose, it's kind of the filter, kind of the way your photo is gonna look. Let me see if I can show you just a little bit on this setup that I have right here, but standard will be the way you're seeing with your naked eye. If you go ahead and move to vibrant, it's gonna look a little bit different, more like bluish and so on, and you have here the grid with the colors, and then you have natural, luminous, and dramatic, quiet, cozy, and so on. So we have here a few possibilities, and of course you can choose everything and change everything manually right here, so you can move it around and make it exactly the way that you want. And if you want to, you can use photographic styles. I particularly don't like, so I generally tap on it and keep moving until I get to standard, which is the normal photos that we always take. Okay, I'm gonna re-enable ProRAW Max to get the best photo possible. Right here at the top left, as you can see, you can choose if you want to take the photo to your shared library, which is a complete different feature from a complete different video. Okay, but that's the button that I mentioned before, and I'm not gonna use it. And right here we have the flash, so enable or disable, and then of course using this arrow here at the top, up and down, I can go ahead and choose my camera options. So flash, so we have here, of course, the shared library. We have here live photo. We have the aspect format, so square or 16:9 or whatever. So you can come back to normal 4:3. And this is one of those settings that you can preserve when we're talking about preserve settings, right? Right here we have exposure. So again, we can choose how bright the image gets, and then the timer. And this is pretty much what we get when we're talking about the settings and shortcuts and buttons and features when we're talking about the camera app for photo. Naturally, this is the macro button. We were talking about macro control. This is the button again. And right here, if we actually move to video, we have just one very important setting that I want to show you, which is, of course, ProRAW log. So by default, ProRAW log will be turned off, as you can see, crossed, so it's not working. And then we're going to be using 4K 30 frames per second. Remember that we set up 4K 30 frames per second. Great, we can take video in awesome quality using this feature right here. This is perfect. This is going to give you awesome videos. But if for some reason you want to go ahead and take it to the next level and make a perfect video, of course, you can tap on it and enable ProRAW log. Take a look at this. I can only record 12 minutes on this setting right here. And the image is gonna get like grayish. It's gonna get like washed as if it has no color. And that's because it's in log. So the idea here is that you record on your iPhone and then edit on a proper computer, on a proper software to actually get the best color, the best quality, and adjust it manually. But again, this is only gonna take like 12 minutes and then it's gonna like completely full my storage. So the idea here is you can have it crossed like that and then use it 4K 30 frames per second and then record your videos normally. And then that's literally it. Those are the best iPhone camera settings on your iPhone, every single camera setting explained, so you'll be able to know exactly how to take the best photos, the best videos on your iPhone. Of course, I wouldn't end this video without giving you some samples, some photos and videos of what I was able to capture with this amazing iPhone 16 Pro Max using the best camera settings on my iPhone. But I'm just not gonna give you on this video because YouTube will just compress and will not get great quality photos and videos and examples. So I'm gonna have a Google Drive and I'm gonna have it in the description right here with all of those photos and videos taken from this device with these specific settings, and you can go ahead, check it out, and of course come back here and let me know if you liked it, if they were great or not. So that's literally it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next videos, you guys. Bye bye.